Hello, welcome to TMC podcast. In today's podcast, we are going to discuss about the South China Sea conflict, a very serious conflict nowadays, and it's still going on. Not just myself, today we have a very special guest coming from CNN, Mr. Mike, a very popular reporter, and myself as well. And now let's go with me to go Mr. Mike. Hello, Mr. Mike. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and I'm very happy that you can attend to the show.
Mr. Tai, it is my honor to join and attend the podcast. As you know, the conflict in the South China Sea nowadays is very serious. The South China Sea conflict is a territorial dispute between the Philippines, Vietnam, Brunei, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Instead of taking and just giving out boring information, I would like to discuss with you about the conflict in the South China Sea.
Yes, it could be great that I can talk and discuss with you, Mr. Mike.
Before I start, Mr. Tai, I would like to ask you, who do you think is the one who has the right to control the South China Sea?
That's a very difficult question, Mr. Mike. In my opinion, actually, I think nobody has their rights to claim ownership of the South China Seas. But as far as I'm aware, China has been developing islands in the middle of the sea, turning what were formerly underwater reefs into sandy islands with airfields, roads, buildings, and location for military systems.
Exactly, Mr. Tai. China wants to conquer the South China Sea for a reason. One main reason is the location of the South China Sea is a very strategic location, making it the most tense place in the world. The conflict mainly focuses on Paracel Island and Spratly Island. As each country has their own right to claim those islands, parts of the Paracel Island and Spratly Island are currently claimed by China, Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam.
As I know, the conflict was first identified in 1279, right, Mr. Mike?
Yes, that is true.
I think that when the China produced a map in the domain that encompassed the whole South China Seas, the conflict has not been solved even now. The South China Sea is a very complicated topic with international consequences due to its strategic locations and important for the economies of several Southeast Asian countries.
Yes, Mr. Tai. I think that China is doing many things in order to take advantage of this conflict. Not just China, Vietnam is also doing a variety of stuff to take advantage in this conflict. China is making more aggressive policies, and this is a disadvantage to Vietnam in the national economy and sovereignty. However, as I have researched Vietnam has worked with other countries in the ASEAN in the Quads in order to counter China's illegal claims. Without the challenges, Vietnam still have the opportunities to protect and claim the South China Sea.
I think not just Vietnam and China, other countries involved in the conflicts, they still have some move in order to protect the South China Seas. For example, Brunei, they have recently released a statement claiming parts of the South China Seas according to the international laws and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Meanwhile, Malaysia also claimed 10 marine features of the Spratly Island, including the Louisiana Reefs, and so far, they have controlled 7 features of the islands.
Well, Mr. Tai, not only Malaysia and Vietnam, Brunei claim the South China Sea, but also Indonesia too. Indonesia also claimed an area in the South China Sea as its own. Following international law, Malaysia and Vietnam also claim parts of the same area, so they need to negotiate with Indonesia. Indonesia has the right to explore and use resources in this area and can prevent foreign fishing vessels without a permit. Recently, Indonesia objected to Chinese fishing vessels in its area because they didn't have permission to fish in the Indonesia region.
Yeah, the Philippines also claims certain land feature in the South China Sea like other countries as well. However, I think they have the same area with Vietnam, Malaysia, China, and Taiwan. They also claim the same area as with the Philippines. The Philippines had developed defense in the area, but its fishermen can't go to the traditional fishing area due to the Chinese claim.
As you said, Mr. Tai, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and other claimants in the South China Seas are having dispute right now. Because of that, do you think there is going to be a possible outcome to solve this problem?
Yes, of course. I think in a good scenario, the regional conflicts are resolved peacefully by diplomacy, collaborations, and conformity to international law. In this case, the nation of the area cooperate to create a rules-based systems that fosters peace and prosperity for all.
Your good scenario was good, Tai. But also, there can be bad scenarios for the South China Sea too. There will be a possible outcome that external forces like larger regional wars or rising tensions would cause violence to break out in the South China Sea. Threats to freedom of navigation by any of the claims would also prompt swift response from other claimants as well as other important nations.
Yeah, that is actually a scenario, a pretty good scenario, but I think it's not very. It will create a lot of conflicts. However, if the countries do not agree with the scenario, there will be a even other bad scenario. It can be envisioned as a full-fledged military clash with China and the U.S. possibly coming face to face. Not only with the desire for this area, but also the world economy and security as well. The current situation will continue to happen, and nations in the area will continue to compete with another for control the resources and power. This can result in an armed conflict and the instability of the area.
Oh yeah, that is going to be very terrible.
Yeah, I think the South China Sea is currently deadlocked because the countries involved refuse to compromise on their claims, and China's strong and aggressive stand make it difficult to find a solutions. And as the result, the South China Sea has become increasingly dominated by China, which causing concerns for neighbor countries and the countries that want to claim the South China Seas. Recent developments such as the formation of AUKUS and Quads are further escalating tensions in the regions. Oh yeah, Mr. Mike, before the podcast end, what do you think the general public think about the conflicts?
Based on the research to the people, the people have different views on territorial claims in the South China Seas. Some of them might support China and allow China to occupy the South China Sea, but while others views China action is aggressive and illegal to international law. And also, people are worried about the conflicts in the future if the claimants cannot negotiate or find good solutions together.
Also, there's some other opinion on other countries getting involved. For example, U.S. Something is need to be protect navigation and stability, while others see it is interfering in the China affairs. Oh yeah, me and Mr. Mang have recently done an interview on the South China Sea conflict with the publics, and let's go with me and Mr. Mang to meet them. Yeah, as you guys see from the interview, the South China Sea is a very serious conflict. What do you guys think about these issues and how it can be resolved? Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. See you in upcoming broadcast.
Hello, Mr. Min.
Hi, Mr. Mike.
It is a pleasure to invite you to the show. I have a question for you. Do you think the territorial dispute in the South China Sea should be resolved through diplomatic means or through military action?
Most people agree that peaceful and diplomatic approach should be used to settle problem in South China Sea. armed confrontation and escalating tensions could result from military intervention with major ramification for regional and international security. The best method for resolving issues and fostering stability and collaboration in the region is considered to be diplomatic initiative, discussion, consultation, and dialogue. In order to resolve the issue in South China Sea, many nations have used for rules-based approach and respect for international law.
Thank you for your interview. Now we come to Mr. Kian, who is a very famous professor in Hus University. Mr. Kian, I have a question for you. How concerned are you about the potential of conflict in the South China Sea and what you can be done to prevent it?
For many nations in the area and beyond, the possibility of conflict in the South China Sea is a major worry. The tensions have been developing as a result of China's assertive efforts in the region, and the disputes involve other nations with opposite opinion and claims. The potential of error and escalations has increased. With the development of military resources such as missile systems and the creation of artificial islands, and maintain the region's values of peace, stability, and cooperation is crucial for preventing violence. Nations should collaborate in order to foster communications and negotiations, lower tensions, and create trust.
Alright, thank you Mr. Kian for this interesting interview.
Okay,